Ladies and gentlemen, today we have someone very, very special amongst us, and we are about to felicitate a great mind that we all are truly honored to be in the presence of. The grand ceremony felicitation of Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Ashok Seth. We're gathered here to witness the grand felicitation of this grand personality who has contributed greatly to the field of cardiology. His contribution is respected and followed across the globe. The World Hypertension League felicitates this great mind, that is Dr. Ashok Seth. Can we have a small video clip about the greatness of this mind, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the felicitation function to honor our colleague, friend, and mentor, Dr. Ashok Seth. We feel that we are honoring Dr. Ashok Seth, but ladies and gentlemen, he is honoring the attendees by his graceful presence. And I say it from the bottom of my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give a warm welcome, a standing ovation to Dr. Ashok Seth.
Professor Venkatram, other illustrious colleagues, I would say, friends, I'm truly honored, privileged to be amongst you all. And thank you so much, Professor Venkatram, for the words, the appreciation. I mean, the way you put it truly touched my heart. As I'm usually a very good speaker, but sometimes I get lost for words when people as illustrious as Professor Venkatram talk about with so much of grace. He himself is a giant in the field of prevention, heart disease, hypertension across the world. And my respect and regards for him go back immensely to my career. I won't even name the number of years throughout my career that I've had immense regard, respect for him. And also that we've been united through not just science, but a lot of care, a lot of human feelings, a lot of empathy, but a lot of spirituality as well. And that unites us immensely. So I think there was nothing to refuse once he rang himself personally and talked about this. There was no refusal. I was honored. I was privileged. That's how it was. It said, I have to talk something. Firstly, let me just also say, in this very breath, while I'm truly appreciating everyone here as my colleagues who respect and admire me, that I think IPCA has been tremendous in terms of education. I mean, hypertension is the soul of disease process from where all of us get affected, and it's the need of the country and to educate, inform, and exchange ideas around this is truly a service to education and a service to the people of the country as far as I'm concerned. So the 7th Hypertension Summit, thank you, Mr. Sunil Ghai, thank you, Johnny, and thank you, your team, for having done this year after year and elevating science research into this. Thank you. Now I'm just, let me just spend the next 10 minutes in certain aspects of my musings around what was said just now when Professor Venkatram said heart of care. And by the way, a month ago, I was at a book inauguration of an illustrious friend of mine, a doctor, a gastroenterologist, who in a large meeting of gastroenterologists launched his book, and I was the chief guest. And the book's name was The Healing Touch. He had written it. And he'd written this healing touch, and he's an illustrious gastroenterologist because he felt at the age of 70 that there was something missing in the way we are now conveying or practicing medicine. And he was so true, because I'll just tell you what I really think of it, and I was touched by that book. But I also am always touched by the fact that are we practicing medicine correctly? We, all of us, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, went into this profession with a missionary zeal. There were 3 pillars at that time of why we went. There was the missionary zeal in us that we have to heal people. That's how all of you who sit here went into medicine. We'll have patients, we got to make them better. The second part of it was how we saw other illustrious parents or relatives who were doctors. They had empathy, and patients were thankful to them, correct? And we said, ऐसे ही बनना है. इसी तरह बनेंगे, लोग आएंगे, they'll be thankful, और we will be bonded to them. And the third thing was the trust and the respect that we would get from this noble profession. Now those 3 pillars have gradually eroded. और अब हमारे सामने हैं, instead of what we thought was a missionary zeal of a noble profession, the amount of money is spent on making a doctor goes into a lucrative profession. How can we earn more money from this profession? I'm not saying all, but that's how majority are going into this profession at the moment. majority of the young doctors. The second part of empathy is gone into a transactional issue completely. The patient believes that he's paying for a service, the doctor believes he's charging, and therefore it's all transactional. आप आके बैठ गए, हमने आपको बता दिया, आपने करना है करो, नहीं करना है घर जाओ, मेरा टाइम और न वेस्ट करो. Correct? And finally, तीसरी बात, that trust, that bonding has eroded into volumes, revenues, bottom lines, corporate medicine. And therefore the erosion has happened. And so अब अगर हम कहते हैं ना कि पेशेंट गलत है, पेशेंट ट्रस्ट नहीं करता, पेशेंट गूगल पढ़ के आता है, पेशेंट हमसे क्वेश्चंस पूछता है, पेशेंट इज इंक्विजिटिव एंड पेशेंट इज एक्यूजेशनल, पेशेंट इज टेकिंग अस टू कोर्ट्स, then there's probably something also wrong with what we are doing and how we've changed. And if I was to tell you, why have we changed? It's so simple. We lived in 20th century. 20th century saw the most transitional areas of science and medicine. Things that have not happened for 19,000 years before, 1,900 years prior to that, happened in the 20th century. If I was to tell you that in front of our eyes, or certainly in front of, yes, definitely in front of our eyes, now 1903 was when the Wright brothers in Kitty Hawk flew a plane. It went 12 foot high, 120 feet, and that was in 12 seconds. First time to man landing on the moon in 1969. Just took 60 years. Can you believe it? 64 years. What an amazing feat. Think that the first computer filled this big a room in 1944. It was ENIAC. It was actually this big a room. That was what a computer was like, 1944. To the World Wide Web in 1989, the world came to our computer. The world came to our computer. Fascinating, 45 years. If you certainly imagine the fact that a laptop or a desk computer was only 1979, 1981 it was launched. It occupied the whole table. Now, each of you has a phone in hand, which is the largest, the fastest, the computer with the maximum memory right in your hands. Isn't it fascinating? We saw it in front of our eyes. And what happened to medicine? The medicine in the last 50 years with the premier, Banting and Best, 1923. People were dying. Treatment of diabetes was starvation. Can you believe it? Bhooke, if you don't give them food, diabetes will get controlled. But gradually the guy will waste away and die. But that was his fate. He had diabetes. Don't give him carbs. Cut down his calories to 450, and he'll gradually die away. And the diabetes also dies with him. What a treatment. Banting and Beck's, 1923. Remember, sanatoriums for tuberculosis. Put them somewhere. Make them breathe fresh air. Some will recover, some will die. By 1954 was the first time in front of our eyes that we had a 3-drug regime and patients started getting saved from tuberculosis. Fascinating. Streptokinase appeared in front of our eyes as a treatment in 1985 with the GC study. We started giving streptokinase across the West as a treatment of MI. Now we have primary angioplasty. The first valve ever got changed in 1960, surgical methodology. Heart-lung machine came out in 1950. First ever valve. Now we do transcatheter valve in 15 minutes in a cath lab without any surgery. In front of our eyes, we became demigods. So what did that transformation do to us? We started believing that science and medicine have conquered disease processes, have really elevated us to a level of God. हम भगवान हैं. हम जब patient को treat करके निकलते हैं, हम जब TAVI करके निकलते हैं on a guy who's breathless and panting and put on a ventilator, we come out literally like gods. And the patient thanks us and the relatives thank us. And we stand in our stature, in our own glory to say, हमने तुम्हारे पिताजी को बता दिया आज. We saved him. We gave him life. Do you realize this? How we're changing? Because we have advancements of science which cure people or which treat. There's no cure, by the way, for any disease process apart from an infection. But because we treat, we actually have become gods. And in that gods, we also lost spirituality because we became gods. And gradually, the spirituality has gone in that which was the human touch. Agar we now are in the 21st century and we'll see more advancements, mind my words, and this is going to happen. If we all are going to live in this aura and achievements of science alone, then we are living on earth. We're living on earth. But if we want to live in this world into the 21st century, we are going to combine science with spirituality. Can you believe that greatness of anybody, including myself, and you all just suddenly sitting there, seeing that movie out there, seeing everything, said, oh my God, what a great guy. Hai Many of you thought that? What a great person. Kya great doctor hai. Do you know what this greatness is all about? That person, because I didn't get into the medical college for 3 successive years because I couldn't crack that exam. It was only my father who said, banna hai, banna. And I got into BSc and I did a 3rd year BSc before I even became I went into a pre-medical a 2nd time in Bengal to finally get to become a doctor. 92 mein banna tha, it was 94 that I finally entered into a medical college. But finally, that greatness is not mine, because if I was to walk down these stairs, by the way, and mind my words when I say this, walk down the stairs, I could trip. I perhaps could hit the floor or the side with my head. I would then have a brain bleed. I would be paralyzed for life. There would be no more angioplasties or these transcatheter valve replacements ever. I may not be even awake. The greatness will be gone in a split second. It happened to Michael Schumacher, the biggest Grand Prix Formula 1 driver in the world. A split second, that greatness is gone. So if it was gone in a split second, how could you all think ki kitna great hai? Every second, every minute is just guided by him for all of us. Just remember that. You know, if we have to really practice medicine, and I do that very practically, you just need 5 C's. And remember these 5 C's. We as doctors need to remind and be role models for a whole generation and many generations of doctors who are becoming, who don't see this. But we all in this room know it and do it and see it. But how can we be role models is what is the most important. How can we transfer the 5 C's? And the 5 C's are commitment. We came into this profession because we are committed. That's why we work 24 hours a day. That's why we continue to work hours and hours. We don't see patients because they provide us money. We see patients because they need our expertise. Correct? We are committed to this profession. Look at the second C. Care. What does care mean? Dil se, care from the heart. Care is empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy, if you sympathize with your patient, believe you me, you're making him lose his dignity. He's come to you, but he's not come for sympathy. When you empathize, it means you feel what the patient is feeling. You feel what his relatives is feeling. You're putting yourself in his shoes where he's so vulnerable that he's come and said, "Mere ko apne haathon mein le lo. Save me. बचाओ मुझे किसी तरह इस बीमारी को किसी तरह खत्म करो और मैं फिर से ठीक हो जाऊं." He submitted himself to you. Therefore, at every step, when you sit in a clinic, patient, and I do this, and I'm therefore transferring out to you because we need to transfer it to juniors. Look at the patient as he walks in. Don't have 5 other patients standing in your room or in our room. He has dignity, he has privacy. Sit when he sits. And he may be an 85-year-old, she may be a 90-year-old, she may be but they're relatives, and the relatives are telling us the history. Don't ignore that patient. In fact, turn to that patient and say, "Aap kaise ho?" That's the first. Look at the name and address by the name and say, "Aap kaise ho?" And then talk to the relatives, but we don't need to even look at our phones at that time. If a phone call comes, I say, "Excuse me, can I just answer this phone? It is important." Otherwise, I don't answer that phone. We need to give them the dignity, and that's empathy. And then we have communication, the third C. Learn to communicate. We get out of, it's not just communication for the sake of staying out of problems, it's communication to build a rapport. It's a touch. Do you know the other day what happened? I always examine a patient. I've picked up so many of disease processes which are missed by our junior just by a simple examination for 2 minutes. So even if he may have come with an angiogram which has been seen by 4 others and all he needs is a complex angioplasty, I don't even need to look at him. I just need to look at an angio and say, "You need a complex angioplasty." My job is done. I don't even need to look at the patient, but I still examine. And I'm sure he doesn't know what I'm examining, but it's there in his coronary arteries anyway, angiogram. But you know, the human touch is the first touch. That's the connect. How many patients tell me that none of the doctors has this time, in my last 5 consults, examined you, the first one to examine? How many of them say that we came, aadhe hum theek hoke ja rahe hain? It still happens, even in our present times. What used to happen 30 years ago, aadhe theek hoke ja rahe hain, just because you talked to us properly, just because you spent time, just because you gave us time, even though you have a huge OPD, give everybody a time. And then, of course, we have competence. Competence is a 4th C. Keep ourselves upgraded, updated. Expertise. Provide to our patients what I would provide to myself or provide to my father or my sister or my brother. That's the competence I need. I should be confident enough to say to my sister or my brother that I'm going to do your angioplasty, nobody else will. To my father that I'm going to do your valve and nobody else will, if he ever needed it. And by the way, I did it on my father. I did his angioplasty. And finally is the most important C, is your conscience. Ethics, yahan se aati hain. We need to be ethical. We need to be spiritual. Conscience is what will continue to drive us to deliver the best care. Ki wo jo patient is not a patient, he's a relative. And how do we actually, therefore, in this whole gray areas which exist in our medicine, there are only few black and whites on which we can make decisions. But there are so much gray areas, और वो ग्रे एरियाज पता कब ब्लैक एंड वाइट होते हैं? जब आप सोचते हो कि मेरे को अगर ये प्रॉब्लम होती तो मैं कैसे इसको ट्रीट करता? मैं मेडिकल थेरेपी पे जाता, और would I have actually put few stents in, or would I have subjected bypass surgery? It's as simple as that. अब रात को जब सोते हैं ना, नींद अच्छी क्यों आनी चाहिए? Because आपने जो पूरे दिन में किया था, and I'm not talking about you, I'm transferring this through you perhaps to a whole generation of doctors, कि जब आप रात को सोते हो और आपकी फैमिली सो रही होती है, तो आप अच्छी नींद तब सोगे if the whole day you've actually been ethical. अगर आप ethical नहीं हुए तो आपकी नींद अच्छी नहीं आएगी. I can tell you that. वो satisfaction जो रात को आता है, where you've been doing the right things throughout the day, have actually got such a power that it actually makes you believe. There's also another thing which the family will never appreciate. I know that once, many years ago, my wife said, I brought something, and this goes back 35 years ago, I brought her something which was expensive. And she said, and my daughter said this also to me, I hope this is out of your hard-earned money. Because never bring me anything which is not out of your hard-earned money. And I said, that powerful message has existed with me till today. So friends, we put all this together. When we put all this together, we say, thank God, We put all this together, remind every doctor of one sentence. It actually is, thank God we are in a profession. Thank God that we are in a profession where just by doing our daily work, रोज का काम, अस्पताल जाते हैं, रोज का काम करते हैं. Right? Nothing. और घर आ जाते हैं. Through that daily work, we get blessings, we get prayers, we get du'aएं of thousands and thousands of patients and their relatives. There is no other profession as noble as this, where people pray for you day after day after day, just because you're doing your daily work. I hope you understand that. No other profession. आप industrialist हो जाओ, आप lawyer बन जाओ, आप कुछ भी बन जाओ. Think of anything else. And it's not just that, by the way. It's not just those patients. Do you know what your family says after you've neglected them for day after day, for years, coming late, hardly giving them any time, hardly going out apart from a couple of times in a whole year for something or the other, a little holiday? They say when you come late and you're coming at 12:30, 1, 2, they also are saying, after that first critique ki badi der ho gayi, they say, thank God that you saved a few more lives. Thank God that you're in a noble profession where today poor people got saved. That's why you're late, because you were saving lives. Even your family says that. So, friends, I therefore want to leave you with this message. Transfer it. Really, we should be giving the same level of care to our patients. It can be very frustrating at night at 11:30 when after a very busy day and doing multiple angioplasties, a patient asks you, कि अब इनको घर जाके खाने को क्या दें? And you have this to say, इसी टाइम पे रात के 12 बजे पूछना था, मैं खुद खाना नहीं खाया है. कल भी आपको मैं बता सकता था, परसों भी बता सकता था, अभी तो परसों घर भेजूंगा, तो आपको वो डाइटिशियन आके पूरी लिस्ट दे देगी. डोंट यू अंडरस्टैंड कि आप तो खाना खा के बैठे हो मगर मैंने अब तक नहीं खाया है? और यू कैन से कि घर जाके उनको सादा खाना देना, तेल ज़्यादा ना हो, घर का खाना खाएं, बाहर का खाना कम खाएं. Actually, the number of words and sentences you said are less than the number of frustrating events you could have said to that patient. But उस दिन से वो patient ने क्या कहा? ये doctor was the best doctor that I ever found. And to be the best doctor, remember, it's so simple. Just be a good human being. That's all that's needed.